What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of NBA to the Galaxy Pod with your hosts, Slim at RTR30111 on X. That is my buddy right here on the right side of. I can't see the screen. I believe it's the right side of the screen here. It's the right
Yeah,
side of my screen.
yeah, it's the right.
My man Slim is right here next to me. And then, of course, you can find me at Scotty Drown on X as well. We're going to get into the conference finals. We got the matchups. We're ready to go. But before we get into the conference finals predictions, stuff like that, we're going to recap the round two. We're going to get into a little bit of that. We do have some a little off the topic subjects as well to get into, which I think will
Yeah,
be really, really fun at the end of the show. I think it's going to be more and more fun for us to like get to know each other too. You know what I mean? Like not only the basketball and all of that dialogue around the NBA, but throughout this process, me and Slim are getting to know each other more and more each episode, each time we talk about anything, man. That's all part of getting to know one another.
yeah,
But
for sure.
welcome back to the show, everybody. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already to show that support. We appreciate all of you. Slim, let me ask you this though, man. Simple question: How has your day been so far, my man?
Everything been good, man. Can't wait to tune into the first game of the Eastern Conference Finals with the Pacers and the Celtics. Should be a good one for sure. But everything been pretty good, man.
I
Excited to
love
be
to hear
here
that.
to discuss these guys, man.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that. Before we get into the action tonight, we will be back Thursday. So you mentioned the Eastern Conference Finals, the matchup tonight. We got Game 1. Tomorrow night we got Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. So Thursday we'll be right back here, right at the same time, around the same time, 6:30, 7 p.m. ish Eastern Standard Time. That is. I know Slim's on a different time bracket there. But we will be back Thursday to break down game ones of each conference final matchup. So be sure to tune in. And that's why you hit the subscribe button, turn the notifications on so you know exactly when we go live. That being said, man, we got a lot to get into from round two. There was a ton of action. We had a few game sevens on Sunday that were more than entertaining. Let me ask you this, and this can kind of be the starting point. I'll let you take us to our starting point. What was the most surprising outcome of the second round in your opinion? Like out of all of the winners in each series, or maybe it was a loser in a series that surprised you the most. What was your biggest surprise of round two, my man?
Biggest surprise, man, off the head. I gotta go with the Nuggets, man. Like the fans in that arena was stunned, bro. Like it was like almost the upset of the century in a sense of ways. Like
The way it happened.
yeah, the
Yeah.
way it happened, like they stunned those guys, man. Like it was dead silent in that arena. But yeah, I would definitely have to go with the Nuggets. Like the way they went out, it wasn't a good way to go out, man, for sure. Because if you think about it, like you go back to Game Six, like
Yeah.
obviously the closeout games are the most hardest games when it comes down to the postseason and whatnot. Everybody knows that, but for them to get blown out the way they did in Game
Yeah.
Six was just a message sent from the Timberwolves, like we still here, like. But they had the opportunity to close the series up, but to go out their way is just like the ultimate gut punch. So yeah, I got to go with the Nuggets, man. The way they went out was pretty tragic.
Yeah, man. It's hard for me to disagree with you, honestly. I'm looking at the different matchups here. Um, I think I have to agree with you. There's just no way around it. Like the way it played out, you mentioned it. They go into Minnesota. All right, you don't close it out game six. Minnesota's tough at home. They have one of the better defenses.
Yeah,
Yada yada yada. Right? You get
right.
blown out. Like it's one of the worst, one of the
Yeah,
worst losses that I've ever seen Denver take. One of the worst losses
yeah.
I've ever seen Jokic be a part of. I
Mhm.
believe it was over 30 points. It had to be because I believe the Nuggets only scored like 70 points in that game.
Yeah, it was
Um,
tragic, man.
that and so then you take that into game seven, right? And they're in Denver, they're back in Denver. You're thinking, no way that the defending champs, three-time MVP Nikola Jokic is going home on his home court. Up 20 in the third quarter, like that too, right? Like that
Yeah,
part. They go up 20 early in the third quarter.
right.
And then by the start of the fourth quarter, the Minnesota Timberwolves are up 10. And I thought that was beyond crazy to see. Not only the Nuggets, like to say they struggled is kind of an understatement. they scored just over 30 points in the second half after dominating the Minnesota Timberwolves in the first half. So I think that just added to the surprise for me, man. So to that point, I cannot disagree with you. When you look at this series, like looking back on the T-Wolves versus Denver Nuggets series, there wasn't a ton of close games in this series, as much as like the matchup looked like a great matchup overall. I'm curious on your thoughts overall of the series, outside of like just being surprised that Denver lost the series. What were your thoughts of the matchup? Like as you flowed through this series game by game, were you kind of all over the place? Like you had Nuggets one game winning the series, and then the T. I'm just curious your thoughts there, man.
Yeah, man, for sure. Like when the Nuggets won 2 games in a row, I thought that the Timberwolves kind of screwed up then. Like when they let the Nuggets get that momentum. Well, actually 3 in a row. My bad. They won 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
And I was like, then okay, it may be over. But then when they went to, as you mentioned, Minnesota, they didn't get the job done. But not only did they get the job done, it was the way that they got blown out. And it was just like, hold up, now we may be on to something here. So, yeah, I could definitely see what you're coming from, like, back and forth, like, you don't know who's going to win or whatnot. Yeah, it could go either way. But it was definitely a lot to take away from this series, man. I mean, I got to give Carlton and Towns his props, bro. Like,
I'm glad you said that.
He stood his ground defensively. Like, I'm going to issue an apology because I was one to say that they should trade this guy. But he held his own against the Joker. I mean, it got to the point where the Nuggets would rather get the matchup with Rudy Gobert on Joker than Karl Towns. And that says so much, bro. Like, this is the defensive player of the year we talking about. And they would rather have him guarding the Joker than opposed to, like, Nas Reed or Cat. So, yeah, I got to give him his props there, too. But, yeah, man, I definitely understand what you're coming from, too. Like, that last game, like, you can kind of sense that it was coming because, like, the Joker, he was settling for so many threes opposed to, like, getting to his bread and butter, like the post, the pick and roll with Jamal Murray and whatnot. And I definitely knew it was over when Rudy Gobert hit that post fadeaway mid-range shot, man. I don't know if you seen
I was going to bring that up,
I definitely knew that it was over when he hit that shot.
Gobert got in his bag, bro. Gobert got in his bag. Hey, let me know if you can hear me. I know you flashed there for a second. You good now on my end? I can't hear you though. All right, we'll get him back in a second. Nah, but I knew that once Gobert got in his bag a little bit in the fourth quarter, going up against Jokic, hit the turnaround fadeaway. But like, not only did he hit the turnaround fadeaway, he also hit like a little hook shot before that, or something like that. It was like a layup or a hook shot, something of that nature. We're getting Slim back in here. Get the Slim Reaper up here.
Yeah, we back, bro.
We good, man. Glad to have you back. Just commented it because not only was it the turnaround fadeaway jumper from Gobert, bro, but the play before that, he got in his bag a little bit. I believe he had like a hook shot, or maybe he went to the free throw line 2 consecutive times or something like that.
Yeah,
hit his free throws though. That was the big part of that.
Yeah.
But no, that's a great point about Jokic. He did seem like he was a little tired. The commentators were talking about it at the end of the game as well. And he did. He settled for 10 3-pointers, which you don't usually see him chilling out in the perimeter like that, man. Right. But Michael Porter Jr., bro, he had a pretty dismal series against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Not the greatest matchup for him, if I'm being honest. I just don't think it's a great matchup. They got a lot of different options they can throw at Michael Porter Jr. 7 points, 3 for 12 in this game 7 matchup, 1 for 6 from the 3-point line. I bring this up because there were a lot of Nuggets fans online after this game. One, talking about Jokic and his supporting cast. And I guess you could say Jokic and Murray. Murray went off in this game. He had over 30. But there was a lot of comments I saw flowing from Nuggets fans on X talking about, Jokic's supporting cast. There was only Murray and Jokic that went into double figures in this game. Then I started to see the comments getting a little bit more pinpointed towards trading Michael Porter Jr. this offseason. They're over this experiment. They don't like this experience. I'm curious on your thoughts there. Michael Porter Jr. specifically, and the thought of the Nuggets moving him, because I just feel like he is a pretty good fit next to Jokic, but I can also understand why you'd be pretty upset with what you got from him in this series.
Um, I mean, yeah, I could understand like from a fan perspective, like the frustration. You know, you want more out of him or whatnot. But the thing is, though, like you shouldn't just be so quick to like try to trade the guy unless you just
That's
get
kind of yeah,
something that you just cannot turn down. I understand, but that doesn't like he had a bad series. So what? Like it happens. You know, we can talk about Jamal Murray if you want. Like his
yeah,
best game was that last game. I felt like in
yeah.
that series, honestly, like.
Really, his only good game, if we're being
Yeah,
completely
if we're being completely honest, like this whole
yeah,
playoff, he's been mid. Like obviously, he hit the game winners, the 2 game winners against the Lakers or whatnot. But he hasn't just had like a game that until like game 7 that he had. But I understand the Denver Nugget fans' frustration. I find it to be funny how like when you lose, now you want to like start to talk about trades and different things like that. But where was this energy before then? But like the Nuggets' main concern should definitely be getting the Joker a better backup big. Like I'm sorry, man, but DeAndre Jordan ain't gonna get it
good
done,
point.
man. Like there was a reason he was gassed and he only settled for and he settled for 10 threes. Like the Joker, he can shoot the threes, but that isn't really his strong suit. So
Played 47
yeah.
minutes.
He
Yeah,
only he only missed like 1 minute that whole game, and you can start to see it play a toll on his body. But yeah, if I'm the Nuggets, I just want to move MPJ. Like he has a bright future ahead for sure.
yeah, and I think the floor spacing is just something you can't match at his height. Like he's
Yeah,
what 6'10".
6'10", good
Yeah, I
rebound.
mean that type of floor spacing from that type of he has athleticism too. It's not just the height as well, right?
Yeah,
Like he had a lot of athleticism coming out of college. But I do agree with what you said. Like if you we're talking about Jokic's supporting cast right now, and this is the same supporting cast minus Bruce Brown, basically,
right.
that won the NBA championship last year. So I think it is just a little. Let's see what they do next year, right? Like if Michael Porter Jr. flounders out next year in the postseason, then yeah, maybe you move on from him because he did it 2 years in a row. But you're coming off a championship win.
Yeah, I mean, he can't
I
hit
just
the
I feel like
paint.
now is not the time, bro.
Nah, for sure, bro. It's not, man. It's really
I
not.
think you go out and you like you said, I think you do need to get a backup and it's so funny you bring that up because it's such a big talking point in Philadelphia in general. Because
Hmm.
we look at Embiid's backup bigs, it's cost us playoff series over the years not having a proper backup for Joel Embiid. So
Yeah,
you bringing that up, I can relate to that
yeah,
for Nikola Jokic because what are they supposed to do? Throw DeAndre Jordan out there at center? Like, is that what we're doing? Throwing 35-year-old DeAndre Jordan out there in the
yeah,
postseason?
yeah,
Like, I
man.
don't think so, man. I don't
Yeah,
think so. Peyton
nah.
Watson's solid. He's a power forward. Aaron
Um,
Gordon was in foul trouble in this game. So if you don't have him,
yeah,
there to give you some minutes when Jokic is off the court, that
yeah.
hurts as well.
Small ball
Um,
five. I think got that guy Najee, Zeke Najee or something like that.
Zeke Naji, he has some talent.
But
He's six
six.
nine, but he's athletic. He's
Yeah.
athletic as
No,
hell.
normally at one point he was playing the backup five for them at one point during the season.
I wonder why they went away from that.
Yeah.
Maybe experience with DeAndre Jordan because I
Yeah.
know he didn't play at all in this series really, but he did play in the first round series
Yeah.
for sure.
I seen him in there. Yeah.
So he was the backup big. I think in general though, they need to add something to their bench. Like you look at this game 7,
Mm-hmm.
they went to 3 guys off their bench. Justin Holiday only got 9 minutes, took 0 shots. Reggie Jackson got 5 minutes, took 1 shot. And then you had Christian Brown, excuse me, with 20 minutes. He took 3 shots. He had 5 points.
Yeah.
So they got to do something with that bench. And you do need to do something to replace Bruce Brown. I think they thought maybe they could get more from a guy like Christian Brown
And pay him
in
less.
what his third or fourth season now. So didn't really pan out. Let me ask you one more thing about the Nuggets before we move on to the next series to break down here. But Nuggets, totality, whole season, success or failure, in your opinion?
The way they went out was a failure for sure.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
you,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think that's a good point about it. The way they went out.
the
Like,
way,
not
right?
losing to the T Wolves necessarily, but the way they lost to the T
Yeah,
Wolves.
the way, like. Michael Malone could just taste it. He was just this close to getting to the
Mm.
Western Conference Finals, but it blew. It went away just like that. It went away. But
And how
like
was
I
he
don't like
feeling
the
after the game?
Nuggets. Like the Nuggets kind of brought this upon themselves because I like. Did you pay attention to Christian Brown like guard and cat? I don't know what was they thinking. Like
Yeah,
he was killing that matchup, bro. Like literally, he was
yeah,
going to work. And I was
yeah.
like, so they're not going to put Gordon on him? Like they're just going to leave it there? But
It's
yeah,
funny, that did end up almost. You could say that cost him the game in a sense because Cat
yeah,
had a stretch there where he just went in, like he just went
yeah,
off. And I think to your point earlier in the show, it was very interesting in that series to kind of see Cat, kind of return to what I thought he was maybe 2, 3 years ago, which
yeah,
is a a legitimate, like a star. I shouldn't say a
yeah,
superstar just yet. Let's see what he does the rest of the
yeah. All
postseason.
NBA, All Star type of guy.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
that he's that level. He
yeah,
can
he's
be a
that
number
good.
two on a championship team, and he's shown that so far. But I do agree. I think that's got to be a failure on the Nuggets end, and they're the defending champs. They didn't even get back to the conference finals, so um, definitely a bit of a failure. Thoughts on Mike Malone's presser, my man?
Ah, Mike. I mean, honestly, bro, like I was laughing my ass. I'm not gonna lie, because it's like, okay, don't get me wrong. I understand frustration. Game 7, you just lost. You was up like at most like 20 some points or whatnot. So you blew it, and we keep mentioning the way they went out or whatever. So I understand the frustration or whatnot, but I mean, like if you Michael Malone, I'm sure that he probably like watched that video a lot of times and felt like he was wrong and he owed that guy an
Right.
apology because I mean he didn't do nothing wrong. He just asked you a simple question. Like me
Yeah.
and you was chatting before we started the show. He could have just said next question,
Next question.
I don't have the answer to this right now. And just move on. Like it wasn't his answer was it was a stupid ass question or something like that.
Yeah.
But in reality it really wasn't. But it just was frustration though. But
Jerry thinks it
nonetheless,
was. He thinks it was warranted. So one of our
yeah.
commenters here thinks it was warranted. He said he didn't cuss anyone out, just frustrated. The
Yeah.
reporter, my thing is the reporter is doing their job. Like they didn't ask like a very ignorant question, in my opinion. I thought it was a
Yeah,
very
same
simple
here.
question. So I thought it was a little unwarranted, and I think maybe that comes from my experience with Mike Malone in a sense. Like he is kind of an asshole. Like in his press conferences, he is kind of a cocky
Yeah,
dickhead.
yeah,
At their parade last year when they won it all, he said some things at their parade that
yeah,
comes off a little arrogant. Hey, they have every right as the defending champions to do so,
yeah.
but
The Lakers did it.
um, I think another thing that I wanted to point out about this game, and I'm glad we brought up the Mike Malone thing here because it's funny that Mike Malone acts like that, but then you see like Jokic and maybe it was Christian Brown get mad at Ant Edwards and Jada
Yeah, yeah.
McDaniels at the end
Case,
of the game who
yeah.
tried to do a
Kyle will
crazy
Pope.
dunk.
Yeah,
Yeah, and Edwards waving to the Denver fans. It's like we can't get mad at Ant Edwards for doing that when he's playing on the road against the defending champs. You got fans in the crowd probably talking mad shit to this man, and they come back from down 20 in the third quarter and beat you on your home
yeah,
court. I thought that was pretty lame by Jokic. Like as a guy that I don't generally judge his character in a negative fashion,
yeah.
because I do like the way he goes about the game for the most part with Nikola Jokic.
Right.
I thought that was pretty lame of him, honestly, to go up
Yeah,
and talk to Ann about that. I thought that was pretty lame.
yeah. I understand. Like one thing about Ant though, like as you can't really get too mad because Ant is the type of guy like he going to keep that same energy regardless. Like he was talking that talk and he backed it up. So I mean, hey,
Yeah,
like you mentioned, like to be on the road and be down as big as they was and then come back and win the game. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the fans was talking shit to him as well. So he
yeah.
was just keeping the same energy with those guys. So
How do you
yeah,
feel about the Jaden McDaniels like dunk attempt at the end? He got fouled by KCP. Good foul by KCP. Don't let him disrespect you. I think that's fair. But like,
yeah.
what did you think that was? Like, this is. I guess I already said it. Is that disrespectful?
I mean, yeah, I could see it being disrespectful. I think he was just trolling those guys, but I
Yeah,
can understand like the frustration of like the unwritten rule or whatever. Just
yeah.
let the shot clock go out or
He was
whatnot.
excited though.
Yeah, it was funny though because he tried to like throw himself a lob.
He did
But
like the one bounce, like off the
yeah,
floor, and tried to yam it like that, bro. Like
yeah, bro, it was
and
crazy.
the bench was ready to explode. I wanted to
Yeah,
see it
it
happen,
was.
but
Yeah, man.
I think stuff like that. I think Ant talking to the crowd, even Jokic responded to him fine. Like defend your fans, you can do that. That's fine, I guess.
Yeah,
I like it. It reminds me of like old school basketball, like getting
yeah,
physical,
basically.
getting in each
Yeah,
other's faces. And just for clarity, like guys like Ant Edwards, this whole series post games, especially when the T Wolves lost to the Denver Nuggets, he continued to talk about how great Nikola Jokic in that group is over there in Denver. So, like to act like he's disrespecting that team in any way, I just don't believe that. I think he's just out there having fun, man. But let's move on. That's a lot of time, rightfully so. In the defending champs, they had to
yeah,
exit
yeah.
in strong fashion. Let's go over to the Eastern Conference with the series that finished a little early there. The Boston Celtics, the Cleveland Cavs. Were there any surprises in this series? I think for me, I'll throw one to you. The surprise for me was Donovan Mitchell missing the last, two games in that series
Yeah.
due to injury after he was dominating in the first three. I thought
Yeah.
that was pretty interesting. That caught me off guard. I get it. Injuries happen. I'm not going to sit here and, talk about whether he was fighting through or not fighting through
Yeah.
something. But Celtics end up winning that series in 5. Where do you go next if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers? We talked about this a little bit last week, but let's really think about it here. Like, where do you go next if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers? Because there's already the rumblings trading a Donovan Mitchell. I wouldn't do that if I'm Cleveland. To be clear, I think I would go the route of moving a guy like Darius Garland or maybe even a Jared Allen, given what he's given you in the postseason the last 2 seasons. But what are your thoughts on the Cavs? What were your thoughts on that series as a whole?
Well, you say that he missed the last 2 games. Honestly, it wasn't really no surprise considering the fact that up to that point, like he's been carrying the load offensively, bro. Like there's
He
only
was
so
doing
much
a
he can
lot.
do. Like he
Yeah,
was like everything pretty much ran through him offensively. Like I think he averaged like what 33 points per game in the postseason. Probably not a little bit more, but more.
let
But
me.
yeah, I mean, it was no surprise. I mean, he was already playing through if I'm not mistaken, a strained calf or something like that. But
Yeah, and you can't mess with those muscles, man. When they're straight, like they're you don't want to mess that up further. So yeah, I think that is fair what you're saying.
yeah, so I can understand him missing the last 2 games, but where should the Cavs go? I've been reading a few reports or whatnot, so I think they're going to look to move Garland in the off season, try to maybe even package him and Allen together to see what you can get. I think they probably is over the experiment of a front court of Mobley and Allen or
Yeah.
whatnot. So yeah, they probably should just try to see what they get for those guys. But I definitely wouldn't trade Donovan Mitchell, not by any means, unless he wants out.
Uh,
You know,
yeah, if
so
he's gonna force his way out, like, and I'm
yeah,
definitely the thing is, man, all the rumors, it's like the Knicks, it's
yeah,
the
he,
Miami Heat.
yeah,
Why would the Cavs help somebody else in the Eastern Conference by
yeah,
doing that? Like, I really just don't understand it. Like,
yeah,
I don't understand why they would. I've seen crazier things happen for sure, but
yeah.
like, especially giving him to Miami, like, why? Why?
Exactly. Like,
Why are
why
we
would they
trading him
do
to Miami, bro?
that?
But I
Right.
like your point about Jared Allen. I know I brought it up earlier as well, but moving off of him, and the reason that it came to my mind was what I was able to see from Evan Mobley in this series. Given it was 5 games, right? It was a short series, but you look down the stretch of this series, man, he was able to explore his talents offensively. I think that just comes from the detriment that they were dealing with offensively, but also just being that guy on the defensive end as well. He showed he can handle it. He showed he can rebound with the best of them.
Okay.
But the scoring, man, 21.4 points per game in this series, 9.4 rebounds per game, shot 63% from the field. Evan Mobley and letting him be free, I think, is the biggest reason that you go out and you move Jared Allen this offseason. Um, I've never been a fan of the 2 small guards in the backcourt. I don't think it works holistically once you get to the postseason. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
with you there too. I would maybe try to move both of them, maybe move them in a package for another star or something like that. I don't
Yeah,
know.
for sure. Yeah.
If there's somebody out there available,
Yeah, like
maybe Garland and Allen to like I was gonna say the Heat, but that would never work with Bam Adebayo. But something like that for like a Jimmy Butler, not Jimmy Butler, but something like that
Yeah,
is
yeah, something like that.
what
Yeah,
I'm
for
getting
sure.
at. But
Like, I feel like a shooting big ideally would be the thing, cause like Allen, he doesn't really shoot threes, so like we
right,
give like Mobley like a spacing big to allow him to operate in the.
like Laurie Markkinen,
Yeah, Lowry. Yeah, yeah, that would be
they
nice.
had him though.
They would. Ah, yeah, they did. I forgot about that. Yeah, yeah, they did have him. Yeah,
But he's gotten better since he left there. Obviously, he's been able
yeah,
to
yeah. That was a
expand his
better.
role. He went. Yeah, they traded him to Minnesota, right? That's where Laurie was. Am I
No,
tripping? No,
Utah. You know, with the Donovan Mitchell
he's
trade.
in Utah. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. It was part of the Donovan Mitchell trade. He went straight to
Yeah,
Utah. Because I was
yeah.
thinking, like, how did Minnesota get Gobert? Did they flip? But no, it was
Yeah,
definitely
for
what you
sure.
said.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what happened. But I think that Garland probably played his last game because a lot of Cavalier fans they ready to move on. Like the things
yeah,
I seen them say about him was not nice, and not only him but the head coach as well. I seen that his job may be in jeopardy as well. So it's interesting to see what goes on this offseason, man.
yeah. I agree, man. We're gonna have a ton to get into this offseason for sure. Um, Thoughts on the Celtics? You thought like was this what you expected from the Celtics? Were there any surprises on their end, or got them out of there in five? They did their job.
Honestly, yeah, it was no surprise really. I mean, I don't think that really like comes up to me with the Celtics is just Porzingis. Like, what is his health looking
Is
like?
he going to be back?
Other than that, then they have been doing a pretty good job. I say, like the first two teams that they played, they had on business and rightfully so. But yeah, the biggest concern is just like Porzingis. Like, what is his status? Because I know he's going to miss like the first opposing 3 games, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah,
yeah, just up to him like to see what he's about.
yeah. That's a great point. I'm interested to see your thoughts on this matchup with the Pacers. We'll get into that shortly here, but
Yeah.
real quick to finish this segment on the Cavs, kind of close out this series. Success or failure on the Cavs this year? What are your thoughts there?
Ah, man, success or failure, man. I say failure, man. Like Allen, I think he only played like what four playoff games.
Yeah, I
He
think he played
didn't.
the first four and then
Yeah,
was
he
out the
didn't
rest
play
of
a
the
lot.
postseason.
So that's to not have him, then to not have Mitchell eventually. Then like and like you mentioned, like in the regular season, like the Garland and Mitchell thing, like it probably
Right.
looked good, but there was times where you could just see that both of those guys couldn't play alongside each other. Like the games that Mitchell missed, I think Garland had his best games, and
Yeah.
and that says a lot. Whereas it
Yeah.
to Mitchell, like regardless if he plays with, Darius or not, he still go out there and do what he do. So yeah, I definitely say like failed season for sure, man.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, honestly. I know it sounds kind of crazy because they got to the second round. They played the Celtics, who are by far favorites in the
Yeah, yeah.
Eastern Conference. I get that, but they beat the Magic in the first round. What that went 7 games against the Magic, the young Magic team
Oh
with
yeah.
Paolo, no floor
Yeah.
spacing.
Right.
They were able to take care of business against them. Then you come out and you get a Celtics team that obviously is the favorite, but you only take them to 5 games. Donovan Mitchell sits out the last 2. You don't have Jared Allen. I think overall, you would have to go with a failure because we wouldn't be asking these questions about personnel, moving Jared Allen, moving Darius Garland, if it didn't fail, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's
You pay
that's the
those
right
guys a
answer
lot
for
of
me.
money, so
Yeah, they need to show up, simply
yeah,
put.
simply.
Let's talk about the other Eastern Conference matchup. We had the Pacers in that game 7 on Sunday, able to take down the New York Knicks, able to come back in that series and handle business. The Knicks, man, their fans, they gave us a standing ovation getting blown out in game 7. There's been a lot of talk about that, specifically kind of their reception for losing the series. You have OG Anunoby start that game. He goes out in the first quarter with a strain again after hitting a couple shots. Wasn't able to return. You obviously had the Mitchell Robinson injury, the Bogdanovich injury. You have Jalen Brunson get injured in the game 7. I believe he broke his hand. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. He
Broke his
broke his
hand.
hand,
He
fractured
was
it.
not able to come back. I may be forgetting some injuries. I won't lie to you there.
Yeah.
Um, Thoughts on this series as a whole? Went 7 games. Pacers take it, and the Knicks go home. But it feels like their fans aren't too disappointed in what transpired, I guess.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I had the Pacers in 7. I don't know if you remember, but I said I had the Pacers in 7 to begin with.
You
So I just
did.
had to throw that out there. But
Because you got me thinking in that. Yeah, because I
yeah,
wasn't sure.
yeah, I had the Pacers in 7 because the thing is, like we both talked about, like with Pascal Siakam. So he had some good games against the Bucks. I think
Yeah,
like the first 2 games, but since then it kind of like went down. And
yeah,
I just had like some faith in him that he eventually like get it going, and he did in Game 7. I think he had his best game in this series. So,
yeah.
well, the past 2 games, I think so. Yeah, just to see him go out there and do that, that was cool. But I'd say this is a success season for the Knicks. You got to think about the circumstance that's at hand here. I mean, they didn't have their second best player at all this postseason,
Yeah.
Julius Randle. He that's like 24 points per game missing. And then on top of that, like you mentioned the injuries, like with Bogdanovich going down, OG eventually, Josh Hart got injured, Brunson broke his hand, um, Mitchell Robinson. It was a lot of key guys that got injured during this
Yeah.
playoff run. So I mean, I can understand why the fans, showed a token of appreciation, clapping or whatnot,
Yeah.
and let them know that they're not too mad at them or whatnot. But yeah, I definitely said it was a success season for them for sure.
I like the answer. I think you're being fair. I obviously have some bias associated with myself when it comes to the Knicks.
Oh
So
man,
I'm not gonna. I'll put that at the forefront. I'm not gonna lie to
yeah,
everybody out there and act like I'm not salty still.
yeah,
But
you're
it
right there,
is
so
funny. It is funny because this comment right here, like the Knicks have Randall, they could have kept winning. And I saw a bunch of Knicks fans saying this, and I don't disagree. I'm not saying that Randall is like this horrible player that he gets painted out to be all the
I
time.
disagree.
But wasn't it Knicks fans telling everybody that the Knicks were better without Julius Randle? I
Huh?
believe those conversations
Huh?
were happening. Like the
Yeah.
Knicks are better without Julius Randle. That's why they beat the Sixers. They didn't have Julius Randle. And
Yeah.
now we're gonna use the Julius Randle. It's all good. I'm trolling. I'm gonna troll. I'm gonna keep trolling Knicks fans because that's just what I'm gonna do. I don't like them. I don't like the Knicks. But I will say this: the Knicks do play hard. They did play hard this whole postseason. They played through injuries. It took Jalen Brunson breaking his hand for him to have to go out of this game. You had Josh Hart, you mentioned, with the abdominal strain. OG Anunoby goes out, so on and so forth. We've gone over it.
Yeah.
They were still able to get into the second round. They were still able to beat a Sixers team. For my money, I know I'm a Sixers fan, so I'm biased. For my money, the Sixers are were a more talented team than the New York Knicks. New York Knicks were able to take care of business in that series in 6 games.
Yeah.
Fair, not fair, whatever. They overachieved in my opinion in the first round. You
Yeah.
get to the Pacers and you just kind of run into a team that is fully healthy right now, a
Mm-hmm.
very deep team, a team that likes to play at a fast pace. Doesn't bode well for a team that's going through a bunch of injuries. So I will be fair to them in that sense. But I will also say this, and this goes for everyone that has been eliminated in the Eastern Conference so far: the Milwaukee Bucks, the Philadelphia 76ers, the New York Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? Those 4 teams specifically, I want to point out. You could throw the Heat in there as well.
Yeah. Maybe the
Um,
Magic.
Maybe, yeah, you can throw all of them in there. You can go ahead and throw them all in there. The rest of the Eastern Conference, this was the most open that the Eastern Conference has been in quite a while. And
Oh yes.
when
Hell
you
yeah.
talk about like your chances to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, we have the 6 seed Pacers going to the Eastern Conference Finals to take on the Boston Celtics. Now, I know the Boston Celtics have had a Hall of Fame legendary historic season.
Mm-hmm.
But to get to the conference finals and give yourself a chance, I think this is one of the better opportunities that teams had. Teams like the Knicks, teams like the Sixers who haven't broke through yet, right? Cavs as
Right.
well. You can throw the Magic in there as well, so on and so forth, like we said. But this felt like the year for the Knicks of the world, for the Sixers of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the Pacers. They're taking advantage of it, and rightfully
Yeah, for
so,
sure.
man.
Yeah, right for sure.
Did
Yeah.
you ever think that Tyrese Halliburton could be a number one that like leads his team to the Eastern Conference to a conference finals? Like, did you ever picture Halliburton like that? Maybe 2 years ago,
2 years ago.
like a number one on a conference finals team.
How much fun? Yeah, I seen the potential with him. Like when he was with the Kings opposed to him with the Pacers, like you could just tell the difference. The way
Yeah.
he go about things.
Once he got to the
Playing
Pacers.
with that irrational confidence. It's like constantly getting ecstatic in him. Like I can see the potential. Like I'm a huge Tyrese Halliburton fan, so yeah, I definitely could see the vision for sure. But
Oh, we got a
one more
Sixers
thing on the
hater
Knicks
here.
though, bro. Like you mentioned, like with the
Yeah.
fans, they said about Julius, right? So the biggest
Yeah.
Nick fan in the world, Stephen A. Smith, he went ballistic on Julius Randle the way he played last year in the playoffs. Like it got to a point, I think, where Julius Randle even responded to him on Twitter or something. So
Yeah.
I find it to be interesting that Knicks fans say that it would have been a different outcome if Julius was playing. Like me personally, I don't believe in Julius when it comes down to the postseason because he hasn't proven anything yet.
Yeah.
He's proven time and time again to constantly struggle or whatnot. So yeah, it's interesting. And I totally disagree with that. I don't think that you can just plug Julius Randle alongside Brunson and just think everything's going to work out. Hell no, it's not that easy. It's easier
That's
said
the
than done,
thing.
man.
Because Brunson, or excuse me, Randall is a guy that needs the ball in his hands to
Mm-hmm.
score. He's not the best
Right,
spot up scorer. He's not a
right.
spot up shooter. He can do it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, he
He's a
can
pretty
do it.
good 3-point shooter, but he's just not that. He's not known for floor spacing. He's known for creating off the dribble, right? And
Right.
I think that's where it gets a little clunky. I'm not saying it wouldn't work, but maybe Brunson doesn't have the postseason that he has if Julius Randle's playing. Maybe Dante DiVincenzo, for example, doesn't
Yeah.
have the postseason he has if Julius Randle's there. And I do think those are some bright spots. You got to see what Jalen Brunson is at his peak. You got to see Dante DiVincenzo. He can be a guy in the postseason. He has some big nuts on him, man. He hits some shots. I'll give that to Dante, bro.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to go back to Darius's comment here. Def felt like he could be a point guard on a conference final team, but I don't know about the number one. Talking about Tyrese Halliburton there.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I'll throw it back to this because it was something that came across my feed on X the other day. But the opportunity the Sixers had to trade Ben Simmons for James Harden versus Tyrese Halliburton. One of the local reporters, Keith Pompey, here in Philly, did report the other day that the Sixers did have the opportunity to obtain Tyrese Halliburton in that trade. And so, to be fair, at that time, I remember I was riding the Tyrese squared motto, like Tyrese Maxey plus Tyrese Halliburton in my backcourt with Embiid. That's the future. Like Tyrese squared is what I wanted to call it in the backcourt
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and there was part of me at that time, and I put it out there on X. You can go look it up if you want, but I put it out there that while I'm not unexcited about the James Harden trade, I was ecstatic about James Harden. He's a Hall of Fame player, top 75 player. I thought adding him to Maxine to be gives us a chance at a championship. No, duh. But I did look at Halliburton as the more coveting type of player for
Yeah,
what I wanted for the Sixers, which
yeah.
is not only right now, but also the future beyond
Right.
Embiid, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't know how long Embiid's going to last into his 30s. That being said, I didn't know that he could be a number one on a conference finals team. I thought to Darius's point here in the comments, 15 assists a game. I thought he could definitely be that point guard, that Steve Nash-esque type of guy, that
Yeah, that's
15 assists, 20-point type of games, that type of stuff.
yeah.
Um, but he gave us some 35-point games, some 33, 32-point games against the New York Knicks. He really showed his
Yeah.
stuff, man. And I've been more, even as somebody who thought highly of him back probably 2-3 years ago, he's kind of surpassed my expectations, quite honestly, already. So
Yeah, for sure.
Pacers are an interesting team moving forward, man.
Yeah, for sure. Like when I look at like this certain situation, I look at Pascal more the number one option, but Tyrese Halliburton is a strong
Scoring,
number
right?
two. Yeah,
That's fair.
from a
That's fair.
scoring points, like Tyrese Halliburton, you mentioned with the assist or whatever, he can get the team rolling, and
Yeah,
rightfully so. But the thing is, like sometimes when he do that, like the opposing team's defense can forget that he can shoot the ball pretty good. He can
that's a
get
good
to the
point.
rim, knock down mid range shots as well. So, yeah,
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And when you talk about Pascal, I'll save this point for the Celtics. Actually, we'll get into the Pacers a little bit more in that series because we got that game rolling up in about 23 minutes. So let's get to this Mavs OKC matchup real quick. Get them out the way. That being said, we look at the Mavs, we look at OKC. The Mavs get them out of the way in 6. I was kind of surprised that they were able to get them out of the way in 6. I thought it would go 7.
Yeah.
The first thing I wanted to ask you, foul or no foul on SGA at the end there? What did you think of that
That is
call?
an obvious foul, bro. Like I tweeted out about that. Like I'm not gonna lie, bro. The NBA, I swear, bro. Like the refs, I try my best to spare them because I know that everybody's not perfect, right?
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard though. It's just so hard. Like the
Yeah,
NBA gives me so much vibes that it's rigged because as a coach, like it's the obvious foul. Like he hit his hand, so there's no need to challenge. So when you challenge it and then you lose your timeout, you couldn't even advance the ball. Like if who was at the free throw line? Was it Lively at the end or something like that? But whoever, like, regardless if he missed or made no, it was PJ
it's
Washington actually.
PJ
Yeah, so
Washington. Yeah,
regardless if he makes both free throws, now you can't call a timeout to advance because you just
right,
challenged him an obvious foul, like he hit his hand as he shot it.
right.
So it's just crazy, man. Like I guess Adam Silver made that call, man.
That end of game situation is tough for me because I do agree with you. I think when you look at it, especially in slow mo, I mean it's a clear foul.
That's a clear foul.
Um, I think there is the narrative that's going around the Twitters of the world, the X's of the world, the Instagrams, all of these rumors or conspiracy theories with refs, and I think it fuels some of that dialogue in these situations where that's a foul, right? Like that's a foul. Like we don't need to really
Yeah.
discuss it. It's not really controversial. But I think when you have the inconsistencies from referees and then you have a call at the end of the game that
Mm-hmm.
ultimately does end the game, I think that's where that dialogue comes from. At the end of the day, it is a foul, to your point. But what I'm getting at is one of my pet peeves, man, is just losing a game off of a call. It just it's the worst way to lose a game, in my opinion. I mean, there's
Yeah.
injuries that happen where you don't have a chance then if somebody gets injured, like a Jalen Brunson, for example. But
Okay.
calls at the end of games, they frustrate me. I prefer to see the ball go in the net to win the game. It did at the free throw line, but to your point, it's a foul at the end of the day. And I think in the other side, if the Mavs don't get that call, then you have the other side calling out the refs for saying that they tried to force a game 7. So there's
Yeah.
going to be no winning at the end of the day for referees when it comes to reality. But they can be a lot better. That being said, in the NBA, looking at it from OKC's side, SGA balled out in this series.
Man,
It was sad for me to see SGA go out. No lie, like I wanted to keep watching him play. He's very enjoyable to watch.
yeah,
I will
for
say
sure.
that.
Very
He's a
talented.
such a talented player, bro. I don't even know like what else to say about it. Like he's so good, like at
Yeah, he's
everything
really
in a
good. Yeah.
sense. Um, Thoughts on OKC's season, right? Like, did they overachieve? Did they underachieve? Did they get right where they were supposed to? Like, what are your thoughts on their season as a whole?
Well, I'm gonna dive into a little bit of the things that they gotta get done this off season
I like that.
in
Yeah,
order
do
for
that.
them to continue to keep competing with the best of them. But I will say this: I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen a lot of people saying that there was the fake number one seed, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, bro, that is not the case. Like, you gotta understand,
It's
like,
not
this is a
fair.
young team. They on the come up. Not much experience outside of Gordon Hayward and Bismack Biyombo. And those guys didn't really play heavy. And Gordon Hayward has something to say. I don't know if you've seen that, but he was
I did.
frustrated. Yeah, he was frustrated. He didn't get a lot of playing time, which I can definitely understand. Like, he's a vet. He's been in the postseason. He kind of knows what it takes. So I know he's older now or whatnot. But yeah, man. With this OKC team, the sky's the limit for them. They just got to keep getting better pieces around SGA
Yeah,
because he's a proven, I feel like 30 plus point per game type of
yeah.
guy. He can
He's
get
an
his
MVP candidate
teammates
year in,
involved
year
and
out.
whatnot. Yeah,
Yeah,
as you mentioned, MVP candidate, no doubt. But I feel like it's probably time to move on from Giddy though, man. Like there was times
yeah,
where he just kind of looked unplayable. Like you could arguably say that's the coach's fault as well, like not putting him in
yeah.
the best position to be successful or whatnot. But there was times where he just looked unplayable. And let's talk about Chet, man. Been at that 5, man. I don't know. I don't know, man. Lively, he's a rookie, and he just made Chet look like a little boy out there, man.
Yeah,
Like the
man.
way,
It's
the way.
interesting, bro, because I did. I got to watch. Obviously, I'm a Duke fan. I got to watch Lively play against Chet in college as well, and something similar did happen because Lively he excels on the defensive end of the ball, and
Yeah.
he was able to take care of business against Chet for sure. He had a monster game in that game 6. To your point,
Mm-hmm.
Josh Giddey. Yeah, that is probably. I don't want to say that's the biggest thing for me. I think the biggest thing for me is that the Oklahoma City Thunder just weren't ready yet.
Yeah.
SGA is ready. There's a few guys on the roster that are ready, but they need to add a little bit more to the roster, a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
consistency, a little bit more variability, versatility to their roster and to their depth.
Yeah.
Um, but Josh Giddey, man, I feel for Gordon Hayward because I feel like he should have been playing in Josh Giddey's spot. He
Fair
has
enough.
experience. He
Yeah.
plays a similar position, and he spaces the floor much, much better than a Josh Giddey does.
Yep.
And that's something I saw the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like, how many threes do we have to watch Cason Wallace and Josh Giddey brick off the back of the rim before we just stop playing them? You know what I mean? And even Jalen Williams, the big Jalen Williams, he was shooting a lot of threes. And I get it. They get a lot of threes up. But I think they need to make a goal of, adding a little bit more floor spacing
Yes.
around SGA because SGA can shoot the three. That's not necessarily his game.
Yeah, for
They need
sure.
some guys that are going to space the floor because even Jalen Williams, I don't think he's like an elite 3-point shooter.
Right.
He's
Right.
solid. He's good. He's a good shooter. But I think they need some more floor spacing. We see how well Isaiah Joe does with that unit, with that
Man.
group. He
Yeah.
can shoot the ball. He can
Yeah.
shoot
He
the
can shoot the
laces off the
ball.
ball.
Yeah, he can shoot it for sure. Okay, see, that should just go up a position. Like, I think it's time to move Chet to the floor and then put J Dub at
Yeah.
the three. Like, I don't really see like J Dub is 6'5", so I don't really see no reason for him to keep playing the four. So just
Yeah.
put Chet at the four and then go out there and get you like a good quality big or whatnot. But yeah, you mentioned like I agree with you with the Gordon Hayward thing, man. Like, who knows how it would have turned out if he would have got more minutes? You know, he is a
Yeah.
vet. You know, he's been in this league a long time. He can shoot the ball better than Josh Giddey, I'm
Yeah.
sure of. So, yeah. And one last thing about this, bro. That's why I
Yeah.
say the NBA give me rigged vibes because the Thunder fans they agree, and it's like the whole series we did not see this two pairing. The coach put Chet out there, and he put the big Jalen Williams out there. And I'm like, what is he doing, bro? Like, if you're going to like go this route, then you might as well just put like keep Isaiah Joe out there. Like, you don't have
Yeah.
any floor spaces out there.
Yeah.
But instead, he go with Chet and then the tall Jalen Williams. I was like, what is we doing here,
And
bro?
that's the thing. You got to pick one or the other, man. Like, go big or go small. Like,
Yeah, fair enough.
you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to go big, have some floor spacers out there with the bigs. Don't turn the bigs into floor spacers. Like, if you
Gotcha.
want to space the floor, then go small. Like, that's what I meant to say at first. I think that explains it a little bit better what I mean there. But
Yeah.
I do agree with you. I think they need to maybe it's finding an identity, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are they going to excel at consistently outside of SGA scoring 30 points a night? Like, where does it come from? Because we saw it in the early round, the first round. Jalen Williams was able to be a number 2 against New Orleans. You get to the second round, things get tougher. You play higher competition. You play the likes of a Luka, a Kyrie. You had PJ Washington's going off in that series. That's when you're going to run into some issues. So I think, to your point, maybe it's moving Chet to the 4, getting a 5 in there, a legitimate 5. Maybe it's getting a legitimate number 2 next to SGA, and figuring it out that way, getting them another guy to go to there in the scoring department. Not saying to move off of Jalen. I love Jalen Williams' game. I want to make that clear. I'm not saying that. Just saying maybe he's a number 3
Yeah.
rather than a number 2. Like, that's all I'm saying. Success or failure, Oklahoma City Thunder this season?
Success by any means.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like you get matched up against some more veteran, guys who've been in the league a long time in Dallas Mavericks. So for them,
Yeah.
I mean, to make it to the second round, although they were the number 1 seed, is pretty good in my book. I mean, they was what 1 game away from making to the conference finals, you could say. So I mean, yeah.
No, I tend to agree. I think that was a success. Getting the 1 seed. was a success. Like at that point, honestly,
Yeah, for
like if
sure.
they go out in the
Nobody.
first round, no, like it's not a success. But getting a first round win, getting the 1 seed, I think that's a success
Yeah, for sure. Nobody expect them to be the number one seed going into this season,
in the
though.
West. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Let's get into some matchups that are about to happen, though. Right, we got one matchup about to tip off at 8. I do want to start with the Western Conference and just get your predictions there. I know we'll get to dig into that more as the playoffs go on. We'll be back here Thursday to dig into that more. But before we get out of here, and not before we get out of here, before we move on to the Pacers and Celtics, which is tonight's matchup, what are your thoughts? What are your predictions with this Mavs T Wolves matchup?
Man, this is gonna be an interesting matchup, bro. Like, I would say, like the Timberwolves, they got like the advantage from a size standpoint. Especially in the front court. You got Rudy Gobert, about 7'2", 7'1". Then you got Karl Towns, who's basically 7 foot, opposed to Dallas. You got PJ Washington, who's 6'7", and Gafford, who's about 6'10". So yeah, I said they got the size advantage, but it's gonna definitely be an interesting series, man. Like I'm not going to just pinpoint, who's the favorite by any means, but I know a lot of people pointing towards Dallas to be the favorite, especially with them having Kyrie on the team, an
Yeah.
NBA champion proven to get the job done on the highest stages of them all. So yeah, man, it's gonna be an interesting series for sure. But did you see Anthony Edwards' comments though about Kyrie?
No, I didn't actually.
Yeah, he said
Give
he's
me a.
he's basically going to see what he can do against him. So it'd be interesting because more than likely he's going to be the one guarding him because I'm sure they're going to put McDaniels on Luca.
That is interesting. The matchups. That is interesting. But yeah, that now that you say it out loud, it does make sense that McDaniels would spend most of the time on Luca, being the good defender that he is. But and Edwards isn't too far behind Jaden McDaniels when
Not
he
by
like
any
locks
means.
in.
Yeah, when he
He's
locks
not
in,
too
man,
far behind on the
he
defensive end of
can.
the ball.
Man, he had Jamal Murray in the box, bro. Like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro. I'll give you my prediction, but I will say I think this is kind of a wild card in a sense. Like I
it
think it could
is.
go either way.
It
To your
is,
point,
man.
I don't know if there is a favorite. It does seem like the public is leaning towards the Mavs, at least from what I see on X
Yeah,
on
same here.
Twitter. Just because of their experience, I get it. I just think defense, man. The defense that I've seen, like the defense that the T Wolves were able to play against the Denver Nuggets in the second half of that game 7, like to
Yeah,
hold them to, under 40 points in the second half. I don't know. It's hard for me to bet against that,
it
honestly,
is,
because
man.
when
It really
shots aren't
is.
falling, they go to the defense, and
Yep,
that's their calling
exactly.
card.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like,
I'm gonna
it's
go with the
tough.
T Wolves. I'm gonna go with the T Wolves in this series.
Same here, bro. Same here.
I could see it going 7 though. I
Yeah,
could 6 or
yeah,
7 at least.
for sure. I think I'm gonna go to T Wolves too, man. Like you mentioned, like with I say the Dallas Maverick got those guys beat offensively, but I think defensively the Timberwolves got them guys beat because it's like don't get me wrong, I will give Dallas their credit. They have been a lot better defensively in the playoffs. So yeah, but I think I go with the Timberwolves too, man. That defense win you championships, so and they got arguably the better two-way player in the NBA right now, and Anthony Edwards on their team.
Yeah,
So
yeah. That is going to be interesting to see what comes of this series because you do have two high profile superstars in Luka Doncic and Anthony Edwards, and we're going to get to find out who's ready for this moment right here. I do think Karl Anthony Towns is kind of a big mismatch in this series. Like I know the Mavs got bodies to throw, guys like PJ Washington, the Derek Jones Juniors of the world, even a
Gafford,
Derek Lively, right?
Lively, yeah.
I don't know. There's something about this matchup that I don't like for the Mavs against Karl
Yeah,
Anthony Towns.
not only just Carl Towns though, like even Rudy Gobert to a certain extent, just being able to battle for those rebounds. But I will
Yeah,
say this, like it's going to really be a testament to how they're going to defend Nas Reed when he come off the bench. Like, do you go small,
he
put a
brings energy
PJ?
in there.
Then
Yeah,
you go small, putting PJ at the 5 opposed to bringing in Lively. Can you depend on Lively to guard Nas Reed on the perimeter? Is going to be
yeah,
interesting. Man.
it is interesting. Yeah, and they got Gafford. That's another guy we haven't spoken about there. So they'll have some bodies to throw. T Wolves and Mavs 2-2 this season during the regular season. In the matchups, the reason I brought up Karl Anthony Towns, first matchup, 21 points, 17 rebounds. Second matchup, only 10 points, 8 rebounds. Third matchup, 24-7. And then the fourth matchup, 29-9. So he did kind of dominate the Mavericks during the regular season. Something similar with Ant Edwards. He had 2 bad games from the scoring department and then 2 monster games. So he had a game with 9 points, another game with 9, and then in the other 2 matchups, he had 44 points and then 36 points. So high variance between the different matchups this season, especially from the Minnesota side there. Game 1, who do you got winning game 1?
Man, I'm gonna
In
go
Minnesota.
I'll go with the Mavs, man. I think that's still game 1.
Surprise them. I like that pick. I like that pick. And what we've seen so far in the postseason shows you it isn't over after one game. That's for damn sure. So Mavs can win that and still lose the series by all means. I know we just picked the Timberwolves in that series, so something interesting to think about there. Moving into tonight's matchup, we got the Pacers taking on the Boston Celtics. I am interested in your thoughts in this matchup holistically because I think there's a little bit of variance across the board from what I'm seeing on Twitter as far as different people's opinions. Some people seem to think the Boston Celtics are just this train that's moving at full speed. They're going to wax the Pacers. Then there's other people that think that the Pacers are a pretty good matchup for the Boston Celtics. I'm interested on your thoughts holistically about this series and this matchup, man.
Well, the Pacers is the team that I've been rooting for the most since my team didn't make it. So,
likewise.
I mean, like I say, defensively they're going to struggle because they don't really have like this elite wing defender to throw on like a Jaylen Brown. They can put Pascal on Tatum. He'll do a pretty good job on him, but they don't have like an elite defender to throw on Brown as I mentioned. But I mean, all I can say is this: is the Celtics, man, you should not overlook this Pacers team. Like obviously. You can argue that their first 2 matchups was kind of favorable in their favor, due to injuries or whatnot. But I mean, still, this is a young team who like to push the pace, get up and down the court. And Pascal Siakam is an NBA champion. He won on the highest level. And you just shouldn't play around with your food if you're the Celtics, man. And, you just got to get the job done. So they got their work cut out for sure. They're gonna have to earn pretty much everything. But I definitely want to overlook the Pacers if I'm the Boston Celtics, not by any means, man.
That is that is exactly where I'm at with this series. Honestly, the Celtics are the juggernaut, and rightfully so from what they did in the regular season and the postseason so far as well.
Yeah.
But don't sleep on the Pacers. Like, give the Pacers their respect. Give the Pacers their due credit for what they've been able to do this season and so far. In the postseason. I think something that gets lost about the Pacers is, before the Halliburton injury, after the in-season tournament, the Pacers did go to the in-season tournament championship. Like, I'm not saying that's the playoffs. I'm not saying that means anything in the postseason. But I do think it means something to the talent level that they're able to play at when they hit their ceiling. And when you look at what the Pacers do well, it's an interesting matchup for the Boston Celtics because the Pacers, they're not going to lock you down, right? And the Celtics, they're going to score a lot of points. They do that. They have a bunch of options. But the Pacers can score with anyone in the NBA. And that's why I think it's such an interesting matchup. If the Celtics allow the Pacers to play at that high tempo, that fast pace, a lot of points, playing to their game, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting, and I think the more people sleep on the Pacers, the more interesting, the more of a chip on their shoulder that they get. Mind you, the Pacers did win 3 out of 5 matchups with the Celtics this season. Regular season, once again, doesn't mean anything come postseason, but they were able to get the most of them, the better of them in the regular season. So I'm with you, and I wanted to point this out earlier. I saved it for now because you brought up Pascal Siakam earlier in the show, and it is something I heard during the broadcast on Sunday as well. So I want to give the broadcast credit for that because I didn't think of this by myself, but I personally forgot that Pascal Siakam has won an NBA championship.
Yeah,
he does have that experience. Like he has done that.
Trust me.
He
Yeah, he
wasn't a
definitely.
number one, but he does have that experience nonetheless.
Yeah, he was.
And you mentioned him as the number one scorer for this Pacers team, and I thought that was interesting because I tend to agree. I think
Yeah,
he's the go-to guy when it comes to scoring the basketball.
yeah. A lot of people tend to forget that Pascal's the NBA champion, bro. You're not the only one. Trust me.
Yeah,
A lot of like analysts have been saying that as of late, but trust me, he won a championship against my team, so I have no other choice but to remember this. But yeah,
that's
Pascal, man, like during that run, like you can argue he was a strong number 2/3 because I think at the time like Kawhi, maybe you could say Kyle Lowry was a two, but he was definitely like putting out some performances like 20 points per game. I mean, 20 points here, 20 points there. So
yeah.
he can definitely score with the best of them. Like when you talk about an elite like power forward in the league, like his skill set, he got like a nice skill set, be able to do the mid range post game, be able to shoot the three, play make, get to the rim. So yeah, man. The Celtics should not overlook this Pacers team, not by any
I
means.
agree. I agree.
You start to like wonder though, like let's just say just hypothetically speaking, like
Yeah.
if the Celtics were to fall to the Pacers, what's next? Like, do you hit the panic button? Do you trade Brown? Do you just
Mm.
hit the rebuild button? Like, what's next? Because here's the thing, though. Like, I'm pretty sure you've seen it. You keep up with a lot of things as well. So it's the thing of
It's a
like,
real
okay, the
question.
Celtics been made it to the conference finals the 6 out of the last 8 times, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like, okay, well, how many times are we going to keep saying, well, they made the conference finals or whatnot? I think we're past that now. Like they have proven that,
They're beyond that.
yeah, they're beyond that, bro. Like they only made it to the finals once. They lost to us and rightfully so. But you start to wonder, man, like what would things look like if they were to fall short again?
Yeah. No, it's a great question, right? Because they got to this point last year, lost to the Miami Heat. To your point, haven't been to the finals since they played you guys. So to your point, yeah, I think it's a fair question to ask. Honestly, what is next? And you bring up like the obvious answer because who else do you move on from, right? Like Derek
Exactly.
White isn't making enough money to make it worth it, right? And he does
Right.
his part for the most
Yeah,
part.
he does his part.
Um,
Drew Holiday does a pretty good job.
sorry, hold up. All right, my bad. I just got a weird text over my phone. I was just seeing what it was, making sure no emergencies. But nonetheless, man, I do love this matchup. I think tonight is going to be a hell of a game, and like you said, I think the Celtics shouldn't sleep on the Pacers ultimately. Looking at game one of this series in Boston, let me ask you this first: how important is this game for each team? If the Pacers win this, like, how important is it for the Celtics to win this game? And what would it mean if the Pacers were to win this game somehow?
It's very important for the Celtics. I mean, just to set the tone, just go out there and get the job done. I definitely agree with Darius. I do think the Pacers will steal game one for sure. But yeah, it's definitely important for the Celtics just to set the tone. Just go and get it out the way. Because they are the favorites for a reason. So just go out there and get it
And
done.
that is why I asked that question, because once you lose, then those questions start creeping back up, right? And
I,
that's when the doubt starts to creep in. That's when the
I
pressure
mean, like,
starts to creep in. And that's
you
when
brought
things
it
get
in.
tougher.
Exactly. Like it's funny you mentioned that, bro. Like when they lost to the Heat, there was so much brought up about the Celtics. Like, oh man, here we go again. And even when they lost to the Cavs last series, like you start to see analysts start to question themselves. I mean, even Kendrick Perkins made a
Yeah.
video like, here we go, again, starting to lose faith in the Celtics or whatnot. So yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from that point.
No, I do. I tend to agree, though. I think the Celtics they better win tonight. Darius thinks the Pacers steal game one tonight. He's calling it now. Who do you have winning this game?
I got the Pacers for sure. I got them still in game one.
Pacers. You got them. You got them. You got the. So you said the Pacers for sure. You said that
Yeah, for sure. I
for
got them still in
sure.
game one.
Golly. Okay, I love the confidence. I will give you that. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the Celtics, but I'm rooting for the Pacers.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I'm going to
I'm
troll. I'm
going
going
with
to
the
troll you, man. Yeah,
Pacers.
I'm going to troll you later, bro. Team Tobias, man. Team Tobias.
Hey, no, I knew you were. I knew you said the word troll, and I knew it was coming, bro. I knew it. I knew
Oh
it.
man, Tobias Harris gonna
Oh
get the max
man,
contract, man.
nah, that's craziness. That's craziness, bro. I do have the Celtics winning the game one tonight. I think it does kind of set the tone for the series, but as we know, every game means a lot within each and every series, and no game is won in one, or no series is won, excuse me, in one game.
Yeah,
I do think the Celtics come out, set the tone tonight, but it's going to be interesting to see how they progress throughout the playoffs. No Kristaps Porzingis, right?
yeah,
Um, that being said, I do have the Celtics winning this series. I think it will go a little bit further than what the public thinks. I think it's going to go at least 6.
yeah. At least
Um,
7 for sure, in my
who do you got
opinion.
winning the series?
The Pacers, man. Nah, but the Celtics, like, I got the Celtics winning overall though.
Overall, you got the Celtics. So
Yeah,
I feel you. So you actually got 2 upsets. I believe Minnesota. Yeah, Minnesota is a 4.5 point favorite at home tomorrow. You got 2 upsets in game one, both road teams winning game ones of their series. Could set the tone the rest of the way, man. So it'll be huge if that does take place.
yeah.
No, no doubt.
Um,
I know you wanted to get into one more thing before we get out of here, brother.
I mean, yeah, like I wanted to bring it up, but then it's something else I thought about too. Like, is it? Do you want to discuss the Kendrick Lamar and Drake thing, or do you want to discuss the NBA all defensive teams? It's up to you. Because I seen it came out today.
The NBA all defensive teams. I didn't see the teams. Do you got them
Yeah.
in front of you by chance or no?
I could look it up right fast, but I do know that the first team consists of Victor, Rudy, Bam, Anthony Davis, and who's the fifth? Um, but yeah, you see how the new rules play a toll in it. Like you see, I just named 4 bigs that's on the first team. Like I haven't even mentioned a guard or a wing yet.
That is crazy.
Yeah, so let's look it up. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'd like to
yeah,
know who the
so yeah,
second.
Herb Jones. So you got Bam, Anthony Davis, Rudy, Herb Jones, and Victor. That's the all defensive first team right there. So I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you feel like anybody was snubbed, or are you cool with the list?
It's so tough with the new structure of it.
Yeah,
It just doesn't seem fair, right? Like it doesn't seem like it rewards guards for what it takes. And you look around the league, the reason I find that so odd that guards can't get rewarded in a sense
yeah,
is there's not that many talented big men in the league, like from a scoring standpoint, right? Like
yeah. Fair enough.
there's Jokic, there's Embiid, obviously on the offensive end. There's guys like Cat, right?
Anthony
Anthony
Davis.
Davis.
Yeah, yeah,
You have a few other guys you can throw out there. Kristaps Porzingis is a pretty skillful big. There's a bunch of guys you could throw in there, but not to the level of guards. So I think when you have like great defensive mindset guards on your team, I think they should be rewarded. But ultimately, it's hard to say with the new stipulations that go along with the defensive teams to say that somebody got like snubbed.
yeah, yeah.
Do any of those guys not deserve to be on an all defensive team? I can't say that, right? Like I
Yeah,
can't say they don't deserve it. It
yeah,
is just
fair enough.
interesting to see the trend, though.
Yeah, for sure. And then you mentioned the guards though, like before I name the second team, you go back to when Marcus Smart won Defense Player of the Year. Up to that point, it had been quite a while since a guard had won it since Gary Payton was in the league, and
Yeah.
that was quite a while ago. So yeah, I understand what you're saying as far as that. But the all defensive second team consists of Alex Caruso, Drew Holiday, Jaden McDaniels, Jalen Suggs, and Derek White. So I mean, mainly guards, and then you
Hold
got
up. Hold
one.
on. I think I missed some. Jaden McDaniels didn't make first team.
No, he didn't make first team. Herb Jones made it over him apparently.
All right.
Interesting,
Yeah,
man.
that would be my discrepancy. I love Herb Jones. I do. I love Herb Jones, but I feel like Jaden McDaniels has to be on that list. Maybe
Yeah,
they did that because Gobert, like you
fair.
didn't want to have two people from the same team on the. I
I mean, fair enough. I mean, they got Drew Holiday and Derek White both on here, and they
it's
play for the
tough.
same team. But I will say this: the last year, I was kind of pissed that McDaniels didn't even make it at all last year. Like I think Dylan Brooks got in over him. I didn't like that at all, man. Because I mean, he was just good defensively all season long. So yeah, but Alex Caruso had actually something to say about this. Him making a second team. I gotta find it, but yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on the second team? You agree with it or?
I guess my complaint would be that maybe one or two of those guys belong
Yeah,
all defensive
first
team
team.
one,
Yeah.
and then some of the other guys belong on the second team. It's not fair what's getting done to those wing defenders. I would say, man,
Yeah,
honestly, because I
man.
do believe like guarding wings, guarding guards in today's NBA, it's so difficult with the way
It
fouls are
is,
called,
man.
like
It
staying
really
out of
is.
foul trouble, like I don't know that the Jaden McDaniels one. That one rubs me the wrong way, bro. I need to go and look at this a little bit deeper. I look at the numbers from this season because
I
like
ain't mad at it, man. Like I
that's
feel
not
you
adding
coming
up to
from.
me.
I feel you coming from for sure.
Alex Caruso, he's another do-it-all type of guy. There's some guards out there, man, that really can defend at a high level. It's
It is,
interesting.
man. It's a lot of guys that didn't even make the list. I mean, that's some.
It's almost like a rebellion ever since Marcus Smart won Defensive Player of the Year, right? Like now we have to rebel back and give
Yeah,
credit to the big guys. I get it. Like they do defend the paint, they control things in the lane, like a Rudy Gobert, Bam Adebayo's of the world. Those guys the anchor of the defense is what I'm trying to say there. But
yeah,
I guess at the end of the day, you can have just some discrepancies with all of it, right? Like I thought SGA should have got MVP over Jokic, like so on and so
yeah.
forth. But um, yeah, I would like to see some of these guys get their respect going forward. Because like Jaden McDaniels, I just find that so interesting because I thought he would be at the for a big part of the season. He was in talks for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, he
So
wants to.
to not make first team, I don't know. I like Herb Jones a lot though, so I can't complain about
Mm.
that too much.
I feel like all three of the finalists made it, right? Like Rudy, Victor, and Bam. Like what those are three finalists for Defensive Player of the Year. So all
Yeah.
three of those guys made first team. So
So that I guess that's consistent then from
yeah,
that
yeah, I guess it's
standpoint.
fair, but you know,
Be interesting. It's something to watch going forward. Definitely,
yeah. I
that's what I
mean,
would say
now that you see that it's like a positionless thing now, like I can't wait to see the All NBA teams. Like,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah, that's gonna be where we're really gonna have some discrepancies
yeah,
because
it's going to be wild, man.
this season was loaded with guys playing at a very very high level, and there's gonna be some new names in the mix for those teams as well, and in higher tiers in those teams. So it's going to be interesting, man. We got a big game to get to tonight.
Yes,
So let's go
sir.
ahead and get out of here. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we will be back Thursday, same time, roughly. I know that game's a little bit later, so maybe we start exactly at 7 p.m. like we did tonight. But we will be back. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button to show your support. Be sure to get involved in the comments like our guys Darius, TR. We had Hunter in here today, Tiffany. So we had a couple different commenters here today with us getting involved in the show, and we appreciate every single one of you. Be sure to give my man Slim here a follow on X at RTR30111 and myself at Scotty Drown. That is it for this episode of NBA to the Galaxy Pod. We'll see you on Thursday. Peace, everybody.
Peace.